Hi, I'm Alex Howard. I'm here with Sam Anderson from the nutrition team at the clinic. And we're going to be talking today about insomnia and its role in ME, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, Lyme disease, and that group of illnesses. And I think insomnia is a great example of something which is a real interaction between the nutrition side, the biomedical side, and the psychology side. And in this short video, obviously there's only a very small amount we can say about it. But what we wanted to do was give a bit of an overview of some of the key areas that could be looked at really from both sides. So I'm sure people are aware that really insomnia is related to sleep, effectively, is having sleep problems, and that can manifest for people in a range of different ways, from not being able to get to sleep to waking up in the early hours of the morning and having disturbed sleep, to waking up at kind of 5, 6 o'clock not getting back to sleep. Or what some people also experience is kind of sleeping but not really feeling like they're having quality of sleep. So we'll talk in a little bit about some of the psychology side to it, but maybe Sana, on the nutrition side, the biomedical side, what are some of the things which can have an impact here?
Okay, well, I think probably one of the first things we tend to look at is actually adrenal fatigue, because that can have a really big impact on sleep. I mean, one of the first things, as you said, waking up feeling like you haven't had refreshing sleep. It's usually because your cortisol levels are very, very low in the morning, because your adrenal output is very poor. That's, I think, a whole separate topic in itself.
And actually, there's actually a video on adrenal fatigue with Amy from the team, which is already on the blog and also the YouTube channel. So people will be able to see
I think there's a good explanation there. So I won't go over that. I suppose what I would say about that again is, that's one of the areas we'd look at, probably investigate that, support healthier adrenal function. I do find sometimes the situations where you're finding it very hard to fall asleep, for example, in the evening, you might have a bit of an inverted cortisol production curve, so you suddenly, produce sort of higher levels of cortisol lasting at night, and then you're lying in bed, your mind buzzing away. So again, then we can supplementally initially help reduce those higher cortisol levels. The other issue that tends to come with adrenal fatigue often is blood sugar fluctuations. When you're adrenally fatigued, it's much harder to control your energy levels throughout the day. And certainly blood sugar fluctuations can have a really noticeable impact on your sleep too. Especially if you are waking up at night, I find often you might be okay falling asleep, but then you wake up at night because literally your body is sending a message going, well, the energy stores are getting quite low. Maybe you should go and rate the fridge.
In fact, I had this for years when I was ill, that I would consistently wake up at about 2:30 to 3 in the morning, and I'd be starving. And so I'd go and do the worst possible thing. I'd go and eat toast and jam. So of course, a big hit of energy, and I'd be lying in bed buzzing, and I'd never be able to get back to sleep again.
So that's something that actually you can do something during the day to then give you a better sleep, and almost starting with a really good breakfast can make a really big difference for your nighttime sleep. So that's certainly something that we would be looking at on the nutritional side. Now, if you take it down a notch from a kind of quite high level, I suppose, which would be the blood sugar balance, the other issue that people often do say about that waking up in the early hours can be because your liver is at its most active during the night time, especially I think usually between sort of 2 and 4 o'clock in the morning. And if you are detoxing a lot, then that can wake you up too. And sometimes there may be periods of time when we're doing quite a lot of work on the nutrition side of things that we might be making you detox, and so therefore where your sleep has been okay in the past.
So it's your fault then.
So it could be our fault as well. But then at least at that point, you know exactly what it's for, and then we can always slow down the pace, make sure that you absolutely drink enough fluids, that you're nutritionally supported, and so your liver is not under too much strain.
Yeah, no, that absolutely makes sense. And I'll mention very briefly about the psychology side. It's also worth saying on secretsrecovery.com, in the archive there's 2 45-minute calls all around the psychology side around this. So there's a couple of things that are worth, that can be helpful for people. The first thing is that very often psychologically, what's keeping us awake at night is anxiety, stress, unprocessed emotions, things that are kind of coming up to get our attention. But very often the reason why they affect us in the night time is that's the time when we don't have distractions away from what we're feeling. It's almost like during the day that we've got, you know, things that we're doing, and even if we're limited in our energy, we tend to still have a certain amount of routine and structure and that kind of thing. And it's then when we're lying in bed at night and we're kind of there, and it's dark and we're either by ourselves or the other person's asleep, hopefully not snoring, and then we're in a situation where the emotions are there and we can't ignore them, or the anxiety that maybe we've distracted ourselves from in the day is there. So often a key part of treating things from a psychology perspective is not so much focusing on sleep, it's focusing on what's the stuff that's coming up during the night time. It's also handy for people to recognise that there's a certain mental strategy that people have to fall asleep. And for some people, they lie in bed and then they start to think about lots of things and what they're doing tomorrow and this and that, and then it pumps up their nervous system, makes it very difficult to switch off. So it's also worth looking at the routine before bed. Yeah. So for example, not watching television for a few hours. A hot bath can be great because it heats us up and then we cool down afterwards, and that cooling down replicates what would have happened 1,000 years ago in nature. It really got cooler at night time. So just looking at how we're approaching the kind of bedtime and the evening time, all that kind of stuff can be helpful. So there's a little bit of a clue. Yeah. I'm aware that we want to keep these videos kind of short and succinct. So it's definitely worth looking at the stuff on sleep recovery. And it's also, I guess, really what we're saying here is that it's not really one pill. Yeah. It's not, sometimes people will kind of look at what's the pill to help you sleep. Yeah. And sleeping medication can have its place and something like that. It can be appropriate. It's really understanding individually what's happening for somebody, and then what we would do about it.
Absolutely. And as you were talking about stress and kind of probably things that, as you said, that you're processing in your mind, I would also say that if you have a lot of things going on physiologically, biochemically, imbalances, possibly inflammation, digestive issues that can be very disturbing to the balance of your body generally, those can be the stressors as well that will essentially stimulate your body to be in a stress state. And when you're in a stress state, it is much harder to sleep. I mean, it's the unstressed side of your nervous system that's responsible for rest, digest and detoxify. So if your stress side is very much upregulated, you will find sleeping much more difficult. Even if you feel that you might be, in your head, you're in a relatively good place and you're doing all the right things to kind of calm things down, but your body can somewhat work against you. So in those instances, I think there are supplemental nutrients, there are certain neurotransmitter pathways that we can help boost to help make sleeping easier. But again, I think as we've been saying before, it's really important to step back, look at the bigger picture and work out what the underlying issues are. And while you're then doing sort of short-term support, go and work on some of the underlying issues.
No, that sounds great, and that's absolutely the case really in both departments. I mean, also in the psychology department, it's not about kind of we have some sleep CDs that are great, they help, but if there's a more chronic insomnia pattern, then it really needs individual attention to find out what are the things that are going on that are preventing sleep. And maybe it's a helpful final kind of comment is to recognise that actually sleep is a completely natural process, and it's not so much looking at what we need to do to get to sleep. It's what we're doing which is stopping us getting to sleep. It's a natural thing that's been going on ever since man's been here, and other mammals as well. So it's understanding how we're blocking that natural process. It's just a helpful kind of question, I guess, to leave people with. So thank you, Sana, for your time today. Hope this has been useful to people. Obviously, I'm sure people know by this point, if you'd like more information, we have a great information pack, and also free 15-minute chats are a great way of finding out how this stuff specifically may relate to your situation. So thanks for watching, and we look forward to speaking with you again soon.